Also, tensions are mounting over Greenland. Well, let's see what this latest. Oh yeah, the S&P 500 just had this biggest drop in months as tensions drop over Greenland. Yes, yeah, because the markets don't like World War III, and uncertainty. Who would have thought?
Well, yeah, it's bigger than that. I think we're watching the dollar collapse, which is what I
Ocean.
think Venezuela and Greenland was really all about. By the way, it's a current. We're about to hit a currency crisis.
And that's what the oligarchy wants, by the way. We've talked about on the left hook where they want the dollar to collapse and they want it replaced by crypto. And who's made a lot of money off of crypto? Donald Trump has made $5 billion. Here's just me and Mike Madrid trading conspiracy theories. Mike Madrid is a former is a former Republican, is a co-founder of the Lincoln Project, but he has been a very trenchant critic of Donald Trump and what the modern Republican Party has become. And more importantly for us, for 30 years, he has done a deep dive into Latino American politics, Latino American communities, plural, and he really looks at the data and unpacks the data. So I always trust him when it comes to the numbers. And what I've been trying to tell people, folks, is Donald Trump is weak. Yes, he's dangerous. Yes, he's reckless. Yes, he's the most powerful person on earth. I'm going to put that in quotation marks. But when I talk about weakness, Mike, I have seen that he's now negative double digits on every issue. And I want to lead with immigration because it's remarkable to me because regardless of what's happened, the first Trump administration, the second Trump administration, his base is like immigration. Go get them immigrants. Go get the Mexicans and the Somalis. He's now negative double digits on immigration.
Yep.
Talk to us about that before we talk about ICE.
So that's a great setup. Look, immigration was one of the top two strengths in November 2024. So he was tops on the economy and on immigration, and they were two message frames, as we call them in a campaign environment, where the Democrats were having a really tough time, not even surmounting him, but even getting close. Those, of course, have flipped and have gone negative, and we're going to talk about why in just a second. But a lot of what we're seeing, Waj, is the deterioration in everything this guy is touching. Everything that he's touching, so much so that even his stronger policy positions politically are underwater. And this is one of them. Now, depending on which poll you look at, you look at the Wall Street Journal poll, you can look at the CNN poll. Those are the two most recent ones in the last 48, 72 hours that came out. He's still stronger than the Democrats on immigration. But this is a really important caveat. The immigration issue in November of 2024 was a top 2, 3 issue.
That's
It's
right.
now it's now not even a top 10 issue. It's not no one is worried about immigration except for Steve Miller, Tom Homan, and Donald Trump. Like all of this is turning into a complete fiasco because he's doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on militarizing our streets, claiming it's about immigration. Nobody believes that, incidentally, because it's not about immigration. But moreover, it's not even an important issue in the minds of voters anymore. So it's a question of overreach. It's also a question of priorities. It's a question of competence, and it also fits into this entire disastrous narrative of the chaos that he's creating from Greenland to Venezuela to court decisions to handling his own party. There's nothing going well right now, and the chaos. It's hard to argue whether this is competence, incompetence rather, or maliciousness or malevolence. Could be both, but I don't know which one it is or which one it is more of at this point.
And for Stephen Miller, all of it is tied to immigration because
Yeah.
his white nationalist agenda and his reign of terror is through the immigration project, right? He's the one who, according to Miles Taylor and Olivia Troy independently, he dreamt of bombing Mexico and Latin America in the first Trump administration. He's the one that unleashed ICE to gin up crisis and conflict. He's the one who said bomb, bomb, bomb Venezuela, drug traffickers. He's the one who wants to call the Insurrection Act. So now that they've lost their strongest plank of immigration, with that, they've come in and said, okay, well, maybe we can win it back by unleashing ICE and cracking skulls, right? But I think what they've mismanaged, and I know for the fact they've mismanaged, and this is the problem when you're in a cult, is they think the rest of us are psychopaths, and we're not. We saw the murder of Renee Nicole Good. We see the tear gassing of a 6-month-old black baby. We see a Hmong Asian American man, grandfather, being dragged out, and we're horrified by it. But they think, oh, no, no. The base still likes it. Talk to us about that split.
So there's two ways to, first of all, I think you articulated that perfectly. There's two ways to look at this. The first is whether or not they're even capable of looking beyond their base for exactly the reasons you just outlined. The second is you have to understand he is at a historic low point with independents broadly. Like he's getting like
Oh yeah,
20% amongst independents. That, by the way, that explains virtually all of the leakage and all of the everybody, all of these new coalition people, this racial realignment, Latinos, young men, all these people that went to Donald Trump have all come back and then some away from him. So you got to understand this. The way that Donald Trump has been successful in winning by subtraction, which no American politician has ever been able to do, is by dividing us and forcing us to make a decision on virtually everything possible in American life. That's the tactic that he has used, probably because he learned it on The Apprentice, right? Is I don't have to be better than the whole group. I just have to pick an enemy and continually drive my support by making that person worse off than I am. That has essentially run its course. He's never been this low amongst independents. It is true, he still remains, according to the Wall Street Journal poll, at 92% amongst Republicans and at about 85, 87% in the CNN poll. But, and this is important, Waj,
yeah,
he needs to be at 94, 95% at the low range amongst Republicans because he has historically done so poorly with independents. But where he's at right now is far, far worse than any level that he's ever been. And what that means is, even if he were successful with this divide and conquer and this vilifying strategy, which they're incapable of not employing, it's not enough. It's boomeranging now. It's driving independents further and further away. It's not even gelling the entirety of the Republican base that he needs. And that's how you start getting to a 35, 36, 37% approval range in a lot of these polls. Now, most of the averages have him between 38 and 40, but that again is a very historically low number. And all of these are trending in the wrong direction.
that's
So
right.
bring this back to immigration. Look, the border is not seeing people coming in. There's a net outflow of people leaving. So on one hand, they want to say, see, we fixed everything. And the other one, they want to say, see, it's a larger problem. With these 3,000 person a day quotas that they've got, they don't have any choice. Well, they do as human beings and moral characters, but set that aside for a moment. But to meet these 3,000 person a day quotas, based off of nothing but these phantom Biden numbers that they keep saying, which change all the time. Oh, Biden let 200 million undocumented drug dealers in here. All of these quotas are based off of these fake numbers. So these ICE agents that are getting paid, money to go out and hunt people down invariably are going to pick up and scoop up US citizens, which is happening more and more and more often. It's going to happen with even greater frequency. You're starting to see more and more ICE agent presence back in California, moving into Phoenix. As they're hiring more and more of these people, they're increasingly casting their net wider, but there's fewer and fewer people that are here undocumented, and they're hiring higher, bigger police forces. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to start scooping up U.S. citizens. They're going to start targeting people that are not white, which is all happening now. And and every day that goes by, it's getting harder and harder to meet their quotas because there are fewer and fewer people, and yet there's more and more agents with higher and higher quotas. So this is designed to be a catastrophe. There's no other way this could possibly end, Wash.
And furthermore, folks who aren't paying attention to this, right before the new year, I spent millions of dollars to get more recruitment, and their words, not mine, is wartime recruitment. And specifically, they got these recruitments from the dregs of the internet, right-wing media. I'm talking about white nationalists, white Christian nationalists. I'm talking about Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, militia folks. The training is bare minimum. There was a white woman who was a reporter who did a Slate article who said, "Yeah, I just saw if they would accept me," and she wrote about it. They accepted her, right? They're giving you a 50K bonus. They're using explicit white nationalist language, iconography, font, slogans. Now the DHS is openly using Nazi slogans, Mike. One of us, all of yours. They're lying about the people that they're killing. They're defaming Renee Nicole Good as a domestic terrorist. They're covering up her murder. They're praising Officer Ross, but meanwhile, they want to go against Don Lemon and black protesters for their protest in a church. Whether you agree with it or not, that's fine. No one was violent. It was just a protest because the pastor of that church is the alleged field officer of ICE in that area, right? So now they're saying we're going to go against Don Lemon, and we're going to prosecute Jerome Powell, we're going to prosecute Mayor Fry, we're going to prosecute Mayor Senator Kelly, we're going to prosecute Governor Walz. But you know who we won't prosecute? Jonathan Ross. And oh, by the way, we relish in the cruelty. We're going to release videos. So now they've been instructed to take videos of them shooting and killing Renee Nicole Good, calling women B, dragging women out, and they think this is fantastic content. I'm not making this up for their Instagram. But Mike, you said something last summer. Wait, just wait, because a lot of people were really pissed off at Latinos. How Latinos? How could you vote for Trump? And you said, listen, these guys just wanted a better future. They thought this guy would bring down grocery prices. Inevitably, this administration would overreach on immigration. They would overreach on economy. And just wait, when they F up on immigration, these Latinos would just abandon them. Talk to us about, because you talked about the independents. I'm really glad you did, because oftentimes the MAGA makes a mistake. Oh, look, the libs are pissed off. I'm like, check out those independent numbers, bro. You can't lose those independents.
Yeah.
But another group that I say, if you just want to focus on one group, independents and Latinos, they can't afford to lose Latinos. So talk to us about how Latinos have shifted on these two issues of immigration and economy.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Those are the two critical constituencies you're going to need to look at and watch, like with a hawk's eye over the course of the next 8 months into the midterms. Okay, Latinos and independents. That's the whole ballgame. That's going to be determined who's going to control Congress. If this moves like 2025, and I'm expecting that it will, Democrats are going to have probably a plus 25, plus 35 pickup, even under the bad redistricting numbers. That's how big the wave is going to be, bigger than 2018. That's very possible because the economy is it's tanking, it's cratering. And people don't remember 2018, the year of a 40-seat pickup, again, Donald Trump's first midterm, the economy was good. And he wasn't doing these crackdowns and terrorizing and hunting people to the same extent that he is now. He was doing crackdowns on the streets of Los Angeles. So, and again, California's redistricted 5 seats. So all of this, all of the fundamentals, Waj, are moving towards a direction to say there's going to be a Dem plus 11, Dem plus 15 environment, which is kind of jaw-dropping. It's just shocking, but maybe it's not. Maybe a lot of Americans just finally waking up. So let's get back to Latinos, though. Look, most Latino numbers aren't at those 2018 levels yet, which is why you have predicted, and I think there's a lot more to this, the more I kind of keep looking at this going, Waj was saying this, Trump's numbers can go lower. He can break through this floor that he's established over the past 6 to 8 years. The key area where it's most likely to come from will be Latinos and Latino men specifically, with one big caveat, and don't let me go, let's pin that, I'll get to that in just a second. All of this Latino male shift has essentially gone back to the 2016 levels, which is sitting in a high 28, 30% range, okay? The one time it got lower than this, Donald Trump actually had 18% approval ratings with Latino men heading into 2018.
Wow.
He's sitting at about 27, 28 right now. So it can go lower. The question, I think, is really largely going to be a function of whether this stuff continues. And I think on the immigration raids, there's no question it's going to, because they're bringing new ICE agents on the street literally every day. They're dumping more and more people out. And there's fewer and fewer people, as we just mentioned, that are actually undocumented. So now they're going after citizens, people who look undocumented. But the second one, and this is where it gets really fascinating to me, is if we are experiencing a currency crisis, if we are watching the undercarriage of the whole economic system, the banking system, starts to deteriorate. And I genuinely believe, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist on this type of stuff, but when you see the price of gold and silver skyrocketing, when you see us going after these countries to take their oil reserves or their rare earth minerals or their mineral deposits, that's to stabilize the currency. It's not even to just keep the price of gas low or simply just because we want it. They're doing it out of fear because the dollar is in deep, deep, deep trouble as the BRICS nations are organizing, as we've alienated Canada. I don't know if you saw the
I
Canadian
saw
Prime. That
that was
speech today from the Canadian Prime
whew.
Minister was extraordinary. So
For those, I mean, just to pause,
yeah,
so people who don't know, for those who don't know, Carney essentially, I'm going to give the Cliff's notes, came out and said, America's in the past. The post World War II order is finished. We can no longer trust America and the rules based order. You're a
Yeah.
hypocrite, America. We performed the whole time. We knew you were imperialist. We went along this bullshit because you thought, okay, at least you perform. Now the mask is off. There's no performance. Peace out. You're in the past. We're moving to the future. Essentially, that's what he said.
Well done. That's exactly right. Carney just gave the first speech today of the new global order as it exists.
That's
He was
right.
the first major leader to say America, the United States of America, is no longer a hegemon. We are in a multipolar world, a multilateral world where the great powers, Russia, China, the United States of America, are finding their equilibrium through panic, fear, greed, and just the pursuit of all of the middle powers, as he explained them. It's a brilliant articulation of the new architecture that is going to frame the world going forward. So the days of the American hegemonic power, this
Done.
from 1988 to today, this is the first day you heard the articulation from what was an ally saying America is no longer the lone superpower. It's over. And he's right, because we've turned so many of our allies against us. We're about to go to war with NATO over Greenland. Over
Right.
Greenland, NATO. This is such an extraordinary devolution of empire that there's no other way to say that is anything but decline. All of this to say, Wash, sorry, I didn't mean to get off topic.
No, no, no,
All
no,
of
no.
this to say is this decline is largely a function of our currency, and this next war isn't necessarily going to be a kinetic war. That's what people have to understand. It's going to be a war over currency, a war of information, and a war of resource accumulation. And right now, oil is all traded in dollars, petrodollars. That's what Venezuela was about. Okay? It was controlling those reserves so that we can still trade globally and use the dollar. Once it moved from the dollar to yuan, the Chinese currency, America's cost of living, I'm sorry, our standard of living, guys, is going to collapse. Most Americans have no idea how inflated our standard of living is because we get to manipulate the entire world's economy for our benefit. Once the dollar is no longer the reserve currency, that's going to change. The prices of everything are going to double and triple. And I'm not being hyperbolic. That Americans are not used to that. We've been grown up and been born and believe this is the way the world is and always has been and always will be. There's a real awakening that's about to happen in the next couple of months, and we don't have the global leadership to protect it or preserve it or advance it, certainly not in a moral or ethical way. And so what's happening, Waj, is the markets are responding, and they're not going to ever come back under the Trump administration because everybody knows he's half nuts. He's not there. And that's what Carney
Yeah,
also said
it's
too,
done.
by the way. And Macron said the same thing. He's not all there. We're being led by somebody who's not all there. We have to, as a strategic imperative, protect and defend ourselves. All of this sidebar. Sorry about the long
No,
windup
it's
here,
very
but
good.
all of this is undermining confidence in everything that Donald Trump does for very good reason. So you can expect to continue to see more and more hemorrhaging of public support broadly, not just job approval, not just generic ballot, but all of the policy decisions that he's advocating for, because you cannot trust it. And it's not just us, it's the entire world. We have become a menace. And whether you liked Trump's policies or hated Trump's policies, it is becoming undeniable that we are isolating ourselves from our allies and they are turning against us economically. And that economic devolution is going to undeniably also impact the elections coming in November. There's just no
Yeah,
way it
buddy.
can't.
But that was excellent analysis, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the sidebar because, folks, what people don't realize, and I did this tweet not really half-heartedly. I said Russia and China could not have asked for a better puppet. It's almost as if Donald Trump wanted to audition to be a spy for Russia and China and destroy America. He's done it. And if I'm Russia and China right now, I'm sitting there drinking whatever alcoholic beverage they like. I don't even drink alcohol because I'm like, without us doing anything, this mother effer has made America more weak, more poor, more sick, more isolated, more loathed. Carney's not messing around. Carney straight up said, apparently, America, you're in the past. The mask us off. It's done. This is a new world order. We're going to do business with China. China's like, all right, you want to do a trade war? We're not going to buy soy off you. We don't need to buy soy off you. We used to. Now we're going to buy soy from Argentina and Brazil. The Western Hemisphere now realizes, oh shit, you could invade Venezuela. What's going to keep you from invading Mexico or Cuba? So they're going to find more allies. Who are their allies? They're probably going to find China or Russia. Europe is like, we can't trust you. Based on Donald Trump yesterday at 1 a.m., I was awake. I don't know if you're awake, sharing Macron's personal text messages.
Yeah.
Now, our European allies, we've found out, are no longer trusting America with intelligence. So America is now more blind. Furthermore, we're blind because we've cut off from the World Health Organization. Our CDC is run by cranks. So as diseases run rampant and the rest of the world is literally vaccinating people, we have gone against vaccines. We're literally going backwards in time to the 19th century where some white men felt great using the N-word and owning slaves, not realizing that time is done. We're not going back, but they're willing to burn down America. And furthermore, we just found out two pieces of kind of breaking news in the past hour. The Pentagon plans to cut U.S. participation in some NATO advisory groups in the latest move to scale back investment in European defense. Wonderful. If I'm Putin, I have a boner. Pardon my language. Furthermore, stocks, S&P 500, biggest drop in months as tensions over Greenland mount. S&P 500 dropped over 2% for the first time since October as investors react to Trump's threats of higher tariffs on European allies unless they supported his plans to take control of Greenland, which is also another dumbass crazy thing he said yesterday. Because investors in foreign markets do not like instability. They do not like the threat of, World War III. They do not like the fact that, their allies might be spending their resources in defending other allies. So naturally, you're seeing the markets collapse to this, reorient themselves, move away from America. We're more isolated. The price of goods are going to be more expensive. They're already more expensive. Foreign trade, tourists has we've lost about $50 billion. Now people are threatening to boycott the World Cup, so any of that tourist money is not going to come. Our intelligence is going to be weaker. If measles does spread, Mike, think about this. Other countries might be like, we don't want American visitors unless they have proof of vaccination. So across the board, Mike, we have become weaker. We have become dumber. And my mind, all this could have been avoided, Mike. All of this could have been avoided, and we destroyed ourselves. We destroyed ourselves.
It didn't even take a Trojan horse, a gift from our enemies. We did it internally. Like this moment, I wrote a piece on my Substack, I think it was just yesterday, saying it is very rare in the course of human history where you can so specifically identify the decline of an empire with one person. But in this moment, we're going to be written for eternity in faux gold letters, Trump. This is the pivot point. Like, there's no other way to interpret what's happening except for if these were capable, competent people, we would be managing decline. But when you had Carney today articulate what the entire world is saying, and he did it so masterfully by bringing up Václav Havel's words, by basically saying everybody goes along with the charade until somebody stops and says the truth. It's the emperor has no clothes moment, where the child points at the naked emperor and says, he's naked. And instead of everybody doing the enabling and pretending like he's got beautiful clothes, they notice the obvious. That's the moment that we're experiencing. So the problem becomes, what do we do internally as Americans with that decision? Now, public opinion has moved decidedly against him. I agree with you. It can go further. There's nothing breaking in the right direction. He's making bad policy decisions, and he looks like he's increasingly losing his faculties. But he's also very cloistered and listening to a very select few of ministers, if you will, the Stephen Millers of the world, the J.D. Vances of the world, who have a vested interest in perpetuating this charade. And how wide that gets, I don't know. But if there is military action on Greenland, I think two things happen. I think the Europeans start to dump their debt, American-owned debt, their bonds, and start collapsing the currency even more. Start to threaten the rest of the world can crush the United States economy, not just because we've got a massive dominant market and our purchasing power. We're so in debt right now that
That's right.
everybody else has leverage against us, especially if they act in unison. And why wouldn't they? If we're telling the world that the only way we can perpetuate this is by taking your stuff so that we can use your resources to float more currency to get out of more debt, they're smart enough to realize they're just on a list of people that are coming next. That's the only way to get out of what we're doing in this way. And that so these tariffs, and by the way, I got something about tariffs. He's threatening tariffs on all these European nations. We pay the tariff. Well, we
Well, you
pay
saw
the
that what happened.
tariff.
That 90+% that came out, that data came out yesterday, that 93 to 94% of the tariffs were paid by Americans. That came
Their
out
own
like yesterday.
their own studies, I mean, are saying what we all know to be true. So he's like, "Oh, I'm going to put tariffs on all you guys if you don't listen to us." It's like, well, the American consumer is paying for those tariffs. So yeah, we're through the looking glass, Waj, and I don't know. Like I said, when does the fever dream break? I don't know. Are there enough Tillises of the world to stand up if we invade Greenland and then support impeachment? I don't know. I mean, the
I
25th
don't think
Amendment.
so.
I don't think so. I mean, there's no evidence to suggest that they will look at reality. They will be the last ones telling the emperor his clothes are beautiful when he's clearly naked walking down the street.
I think these are the people who will go into the bunker and try to fortify and protect themselves and kill as many people as possible to protect themselves. I think these people are going to go all in. I talk about the Stephen Millers, the Christian Gnomes, the Pete Kexets, and the True Believers. There's a reason why, folks. A point I try to bring up that was kind of lost in corporate media, but Reuters had an article where this Trump administration has proactively threatened to sanction the ICC if the ICC doesn't guarantee that they won't prosecute members of the Trump administration, which is a thing that normally really innocent people do, right? I'll threaten you unless you prosecute us. They know that eventually they're cooked. And this is why what makes them even more dangerous and why Donald Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act is I don't think he's going to leave, because if he knows he leaves, he said to his base, if they win, they're going to impeach me. So he's telling his base, listen, if we lose power, all this horrible stuff we did, they're going to hold us accountable. So I don't want to go to jail. You don't want to go to jail. So let's not leave power. So we're stuck. We're stuck now, Mike. And with the Republicans, I have no faith in them because you've only seen Tillis and Murkowski, who came out and admonished Donald Trump for threatening Jerome Powell. You've only seen 5 Republicans come out to limit his war powers, but then they flipped on him and they said, go ahead and invade Venezuela. You're seeing Lindsey Graham now openly living inside Trump's anus, just, promoting everything. And Lindsey Graham is actually a pretty smart guy. He knows how disastrous this is. And I remember Mitt Romney said, a couple of years ago when he's come out with his memoir, that his fellow Republicans said they're not afraid of Antifa. They're not afraid of the media. They're afraid of MAGA. And specifically, they're not afraid of votes. They're afraid of violence. Mitt Romney had to take out money, folks, out of his own pocket to buy security for his family from MAGA. So this is the Frankenstein that we have enabled and created that has now destroyed America. And the Frankenstein, let's be honest, is Donald Trump. He's American as apple pie, rape, and slavery. This is our id. Mike, greed, misogyny, and white supremacy. And I think it's going to be up to the rest of us to actually fight back. And I don't have, I'm talking to a whole bunch of people all day. I don't have faith in the Democratic establishment. I think they're misreading the room. I think we're going to need an outsider. Trump, in a weird way, was an outsider, even though he wasn't, but, non-politician. You saw Mamdani come from the outside. You need an anti-establishment fighter that comes in and says, okay, we're effed. Restoration, that's gone. Now it's about reformation. Your take on this next type of person who can lead this and win over the Latinos, the independents, and all the people who are apathetic and pissed off.
Or transformation is really what we need, because these institutions that have been built not only are failing us, but the public perception and all the polling is they're now actively working against us.
That's right.
And there's something to that, right? There's absolutely something to that. Is like you said, I was having a discussion earlier today I had lunch here on the West Coast with some Latino legislators, And the question about whether or not this is, somebody was saying, well, this is not who we are. And I said, no, this is exactly who we are.
Absolutely.
This is not new. We took half of this continent from Mexico through force. We took huge swaths of our terrain from the Spaniards. Conquest is what America is. Have there been times, have there been leaders that have reached beyond that? Certainly. But you can't say we're one or the other as our true nature. It is literally our founding documents say we were slavers. We were slavers. Come on. You've got to have an honest recognition of who it is that we actually are, good, bad, and ugly. And I think that this is a moment, actually, Waj. This is some of the stuff that I'm actually hopeful and optimistic about. Is that's going to become more evident now. Like, and I do push back with a lot of folks that some of these high profile influencers that'll say this isn't who we are. This is exactly who we are. And that's like having an addiction. Until you acknowledge it and admit to it, you can't get better. We've done some really bad stuff. Doesn't mean we're all a bad people or we can't do better, but you can't get better until you acknowledge the sins and the problems that you caused. And there's such a wide segment of America that simply refuses to understand or believe or buy that. If it's my country, right or wrong, or if you don't like it, leave it. America, love it or leave it. It's this asinine, elementary, immature approach to the world. Now, so having said that, who replaces this? The first thing that's missing, and this isn't just a Democratic thing, this is an American thing. We don't have anybody who's emerged that is articulating what the purpose, the mission statement of America is at this moment. Now, a lot of this may be a function of a declining nation, a declining people, because 95% of America is still going to refuse to see that is happening because they can't conceive it. Since, for
Right.
100 years, America has been basically, if not the sole global superpower for the last 40 years, one of two superpowers during the Cold War. We're going to be one of three or four. The rise of India, the rise of China, Russia's still going to be there. The great powers with nuclear weapons and rising economies are going to threaten this entire architecture. That's what,
And we're
again,
the receding one. It's like the old, tired, injured sports team.
well, it's exactly. It's like a heavyweight boxer. Some of them come back, one or two, but most of them, 90% of them, you lose the belt, you're gone, you're done. And the only ones that do come back are those that acknowledge the weakness, make the adjustments, and go forward from there. I don't know if that's in the American character. I don't know that we've got that in it. Maybe we
No.
do. I still believe our values. By the way, Carney was also making the case for values-based, government. He basically gave a modern version of what this guy, Abraham Lincoln, when he launched the Republican Party, said right makes might. It is right. It is the values. It is goodness. As an abolitionist, it's to get rid of the sin. When you stand on good values, that's what makes you a strong people. That's what Carney said today at Davos. It was a beautiful articulation of saying we may not be the superpowers here, but the middle powers that still fight for and believe in these values can work across cultures, can work across political boundaries, and do the right thing to preserve a system when the great powers are doing nothing but trying to get more and more and more and more and pursue power just for the benefit of it. Long way of saying, again, apologize for the Mike Madrid long windup, Waj. The long way of saying, when you're looking for the leader that's going to emerge, that leader from wherever, Republican, Democrat, Independent, is going to have to articulate a vision of who we are in the
Right.
post hegemonic order. And it's not going to be just a foreign policy speech. It's going to have to talk about how working class people can actually survive in this environment while we are managing our decline, yet playing to our competitive strengths and changing everything from our tax structure to workforce policy to AI acknowledgement. But it's not going to be a checklist of, oh, he's with the Republicans here and he's with the Democrats here, or he's a moderate or a progressive or a conservative. It's going to be something, I think, entirely transformational.
I completely agree. What do you stand for? What do you fight for? What are your values? Are you for the establishment or are you for reforming and transforming the establishment? Anyone who goes for the establishment is saying that you're perfectly fine supporting these institutions that are the architectures of our oppression. You will lose those people.
Right.
Anyone who goes back to restoration says that you want to go back to a time where America was great for maybe a few people, but that America is gone and it
Right.
wasn't so great for the rest of us. That type of bold articulation, I think an outsider can come and take it, assuming we have free and fair elections, which I don't know we will. There's a reason why Mamdani was last year sitting there begging people to talk to him, and now is the mayor of New York. You need bold fighters. Anyone who's running on restoration, it's over. It's done. Anyone who's running on complicity, it's over. That post World War II America, I know people hate hearing this, so maybe you'll listen to Mike, not me. I've been saying it for a while. It's done, folks. It's done. Trump, it's done. Carney took off the mask today publicly. He called it. He said what everyone else is thinking. It's over. America's essentially in the backseat, in the rearview mirror. The rest of the world is moving on, and everyone sees us. And when I was in Asia, like 10 years ago in Singapore, they said to me 10 years ago, "Oh, America's in the rearview mirror. We're looking east." That was 10 years ago, folks. So, that doesn't mean we're not better off than most people. Trust me, folks, travel around the world. We're still much better off than most, but we could have been better. We could have been stronger. We could have been healthier. We could have been richer. We could have lived longer. Our life expectancy has gone down. But I wanted to ask you this final question. Two quick questions. You said you're going to talk to us the caveat about the Latino men. I wanted to go back to that. What did you mean?
I think there's a very good chance that even if Latinos are still have Trump polling at 30, you're going to see very significantly depressed turnout. So I think a lot of what people did not see in the 2025 elections last year was, Mikey Sherrill was going to win by, 2 or 3 points, and the Virginia race was neck and neck. They ended up being 15-point blowouts, double-digit blowouts. Look, pollsters' lack of ability to get both enthusiasm on the Democratic side is evident now. That happens both ways, but it also didn't reflect the collapse of Republican support in places like Miami during that mayor's race, where Latino men just said, I'm not showing up, or if I am in greater numbers, I'm voting for a liberal progressive white woman over a
Which is
Latino
wild.
man. So both of those are going to happen. That's the point I really wanted to bring out is, look, Latino men, especially those under 30, is probably one of the worst demographics for turnout, lowest turnout rates of any other demographic. And this is the critical demographic that the Republicans are banking their entire fortunes on. Entire fortunes.
Mm.
In fact, in Texas, 3 of those 5 new congressional seats are essentially Hispanic majority seats, which means they have to have not just high turnout with a group that has never turned out in high numbers, but they have to have a historically strong Republican break, which they've only gotten one time, which was 2024. So a huge gamble, which I think is going to crap out for them in a really, really significant way. But that's what I wanted to bring out is it's not going to be just, this return or movement away from Republicans, although that's happening in probably historic fashion. You watch the turnout rates, man, because the MAGA base is not going to show up in the same numbers as everybody else.
And he's also losing some white voters, which I saw, which is, man, he
Yeah,
can't even in single digits, he lost some white men.
yeah.
They cannot afford to lose white anything. And now he's lost independents and he's lost Latinos and he's lost the youth and he's negative double digits across the board. And finally, we have heard for the first time, finally, a majority of Americans are against ICE. Mamdani came out today, said abolish it. Van Hollen said, I'm not going to fund it. AOC said, I'm not going to fund it. And this is where I think things are turning. Ruben Gallego, the moderate-ish Arizona swing state senator who voted for the Lake and Riley Act, was very bold and said, yeah, we got to just essentially without saying it, he said abolish ICE and create something new. That to me was game changer stuff. Your take on it, Mike?
I hate the phrase abolish ICE. I think it's a dead end. But I'm for abolishing it, which is what Ruben was saying. So let's be smart about this. Let's not snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I don't want to go down the defund the police route. I don't want to get framed as the open border people again. the way you win, the reason why ICE went from 39% of Americans saying we need to abolish them to 52, 53% is because every one of their tactics is opposed by 70%. So
That's
how
right.
about, as we do this, how about we shoot for the 70%? How about we start pushing to win two-thirds of people as opposed to um, getting a 51, 52, 53% majority on something that's questionable at best. You get the same outcome, except you get a hell of a lot more seats and recenter yourself as a party with two-thirds of the American public voting for you, rather than taking that Trump trap and stepping into it again and defending open borders or defending defunding the police or trying to explain it. Like Democrats' biggest problem is they're trying to explain these policy positions when they don't really have policy positions backing them up. ICE is bad news. These are bad dudes. Focus on the going into churches, going into hospitals, taking U.S. citizens, zip tying children. All each one of those four things I mentioned, by 65% or higher, people oppose.
Yep.
15% more people are listening to you when you talk about it that way. That's the way they ought to be talking about it. That's basically what Ruben Gallego was saying.
So yeah, so Gallego is doing what Van Hollen is doing, which was AOC is doing, which is essentially, I'm saying abolish ICE, but I'm saying it this way. And Mamdani, because Mamdani can, says, yeah, I'm fine with abolishing it. But the way he did it, what I liked is he talked about values and he talked about love and he talked about community. So it wasn't just abolish ICE, he paired it with something. It got an applause. I think if they keep overreaching, Mike, I believe that number to 60 will get there, the 65, because it's at 54 already, which is shocking. That 54% are against ICE, only 28% are. You keep seeing more images of 6-month-old babies being tear gassed, white women being shot and killed, women being dragged, Asian American grandfathers being pulled. But you'll get to 60. You'll get to 60 in a week or a month. And anyone who disagrees with me, I want to remind y'all, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Van Hollen went by himself, said, I'm not going to leave until I get proof of life. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was in the news for 2 weeks. Donald Trump went negative 19 on Kilmar Abrego Garcia. I think people are sick and disgusted with it. You have to say defund ICE, replace ICE, remove ICE, abolish ICE. I don't care. We don't need it, folks. I'm old enough to remember it was created in 2003. We had INS. And this is where, going back to your point, and I want to end on this, it's not enough just to say abolish ICE, Mike. I want boldness. What's your plan? This immigration problem has vexed you for decades. We've always heard an inshallah. Give me a humane immigration solution. Give me a proposal. What do you propose to do? Be bold. So just don't say abolish ICE or remove ICE. What's your immigration policy, Democrats? Stop punting it. Stop being afraid. Stop saying inshallah. Donald Trump has gone all in with white nationalism. He didn't give an F. Maybe you can be bold and actually be, oh, I don't know, empathetic, humane, decent, diplomatic, smart. That's just me, Mike, but I'm crazy. Uh, maybe you could be like, hey, let's help the Central American economies instead of invading them, which has never worked. Let's actually try for, like, I don't know, boosting them up, and then people will not leave their countries and actually stay there. I don't know. I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I say crazy things. Mike, thank you for joining. Thank you for the nearly 1,900 people who are watching us. I've been going since 1 p.m. I owe you all. I'm going to publish these conversation I've had. Today I was talking to Ellie Mistal, then Joanne Reed, then Danielle Moody, then Ellie Leonard, then Lev Parnas, then Jess Craven, then Michelangelo Signorelli, and now finally Mike. I think I'm done for the day. Mike, I got Ro Khanna coming on tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. That'll be a lot. We're going to ask him these questions about Epstein files. We're going to ask him about taxing the wealthy. We're going to ask him about his faith in Chuck Schumer and Democratic leadership. We'll ask him about ICE. Mike, if you had a question for Ro Khanna, what would it be?
Well, give Roe my best. I mean, I know Roe. Roe is actually, I think he's one of the Democrats who is actually articulating policy prescriptions for this new world, this new emergent order. And I
I
think
agree
that's
with you.
where I would go with the conversation. That's what I would ask him, and not one silver bullet thing, but ask him about his vision for where this is all going with this multipolar world. What's changing with our party structures domestically, and is it similar to what's happening to the multipolar world internationally? I mean, he's a great thinker. He's a big mind. We have our policy disagreements, but I'm fascinated by that guy's brain.
Yeah, and with Ro Khanna, politicians, folks. They bend the knee, they move to the where the wind is. That's fine. It's politicians. You see Abigail Spanberger doing it. Ro Khanna, to his credit, realizes where the base is going, and he's embraced it. And he has changed on his positions, and he's advocated for positions that he never used to. But that's what you want with politicians. You want them to meet the moment and listen to the people. So he's a person who's really moving there. It's like, all right, let's try some bold ideas. And I think him reaching across the aisle with Massey on the Epstein files is huge. So we're going to ask him about all this, and I will ask him about his response to Carney, essentially
Yeah.
saying the emperor has no clothes and the emperor is fat, bloated, old, and weak, and the rest of the world is moving on. Thank you, Mike. Shamelessly promote yourself, sir.
Yeah, I'd love to have you guys. If you like this topic of conversation, like getting to the polls and the movement heading into the midterms, follow me. The Great Transformation is the name of my Substack. Just got on YouTube now because we're doing so many interviews.
That's
Follow
great.
me at Madrid_Mike. Waj, I always end by saying thank you so much for what you're doing, man. You don't sleep. I hope you take vitamins and eat. You're raising a family. You're making a difference in this world. I'm proud to know you. Proud to call you a friend. Thanks for the audience, and look forward to doing it the next
No,
time.
thanks, man. I appreciate it. Enjoy the West Coast. My hometown is California. Mike's doing fantastic work. Like I said, for those who are joining us late, for 30 years, he knows this. He's been following the data and the trends of Latino American voters. And honestly, folks, if you just look at one group that can decide the future of the House and the Senate, it's Latino voters. And specifically, the Republicans, I think, overstepped. They overstepped, and they think their gerrymander in Texas, that could be a dummy mander. It happened in Georgia. It happened in Georgia. Just, they gerrymandered it and the Democrat won. And all these Latinos that they think will come out for them and these young people, I don't know, man. Right now, if we still have free and fair elections, I think the Latinos, a lot of people are pissed off at the Latinos, but I think those Latinos can come back and be like, all right, we got your back in 2028. Inshallah, if we have elections, which I don't know if we will, but that's why the rest of us have to do our work. Thank you all for watching, nearly 2,000 people. Be informed, rest, take care of yourselves, and please, oh, please, don't be a fascist. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Wash.